All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a really powerful weapon in the fight against the leading cause of blindness. And the craziest part, it isn't some fancy new drug or a high-tech surgery. It's something that every single one of us can access right now.
Just think about that for a second. What if the most effective way to protect your sight isn't found in a pharmacy, but in something as simple as putting on your shoes and going for a walk? That's the big idea we're exploring today. And believe me, the science behind it is a real game changer.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a huge deal, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem we're up against. And that problem is age-related macular degeneration, or as you'll hear it called, AMD.
So, what exactly is AMD? Well, it's a disease that slowly damages the macula. Now, the macula is this tiny little spot in the center of your retina, but it's responsible for all of your sharp, straight ahead vision. The vision you need to read a book, to see the face of a loved one, or to drive your car. AMD just blurs all of that out right in the center of your world. And look, this isn't some rare condition. It is a full-blown public health crisis that's only getting bigger. Projections show that by the year 2040, nearly 288 million people around the globe will be living with AMD. A number that huge is exactly why we so urgently need to find new ways to fight back.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. For a lot of people with AMD, the disease itself is only half the battle. There's this powerful psychological barrier that gets built, and it creates this really devastating feedback loop.
It's what researchers call the vicious cycle of inactivity. It starts, obviously, with vision loss from the disease. That loss of sight creates a very real, very understandable fear of falling. So what do? You start moving less to avoid falling. Makes sense, right? But here's the catch. That inactivity leads to physical deconditioning. Your muscles get weaker, your balance gets worse. And the cruel irony is that this deconditioning actually makes you more likely to fall, which just cranks up that initial fear, and the whole miserable cycle starts all over again. And you know what makes this cycle so sneaky? There's a huge gap between perception and reality. If you ask patients with AMD, they'll often tell you they're just as active as everyone else. But when you look at the hard data from things like fitness trackers, it tells a completely different story. Healthy people are getting about a third more moderate to vigorous exercise. The scary part is, people trapped in this cycle often don't even realize how inactive they've become. So we've laid out the problem, this vicious cycle. Let's talk about how to break it. And the solution, according to a ton of research, is incredibly simple and unbelievably powerful. Just move. The evidence is here, and it's convincing. Just look at the data from the National Runners Health Study. It's fantastic. They found that people running just 2 to 4 kilometers a day, that's about 1 to 2.5 miles, had a 19% lower risk of developing AMD compared to people who ran less. And it gets even better. For those who ran more than 8 kilometers a day, so about 5 miles, their risk of developing AMD dropped by an absolutely stunning 54%. It's what scientists call a dose-response relationship, which basically means the more you do, the more protection you get. But this, right here, is the most important part. The researchers themselves pointed out that the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest drop in risk, comes when you go from doing nothing to doing something. This is fantastic news. It means you don't have to train for a marathon to get a huge protective benefit for your eyes. You just have to start moving. And this chart shows exactly where that benefit matters most. Looking at data from over 38,000 people, a huge analysis found that while exercise lowers the risk of early AMD by about 8%, it lowers the risk for late-stage AMD by a massive 41%. So what does that mean? It means physical activity is most protective against the most severe, sight-stealing forms of the disease. Okay, so the big question is, how? How on earth does going for a run or a brisk walk actually protect your eyes? Well, it turns out your body has its own little internal pharmacy that kicks into gear every single time you exercise. It's incredible. Think of your muscles as a drug factory. When you work them, they pump out all these amazing compounds. They release stuff that lowers inflammation throughout your body. They boost your own natural antioxidants to fight off cell damage. They release special proteins that protect your retinal neurons. And they improve blood flow to the back of the eye, which is like upgrading the delivery service for all the essential nutrients your retina needs. So, knowing all these benefits is one thing, but let's be real. If you're already losing your vision and you have that very real fear of falling, how do you actually start? It's not enough to know why you should move. You need a safe, effective plan for how to do it. And that's exactly where programs like the EPI model come in. It's a proven approach because it tackles the physical and the psychological barriers at the same time. It's all about empowerment, letting patients choose their own goals. It uses one-on-one health coaching to build up their confidence. It has group balance training to directly attack that fall risk. It even fights social isolation with group events and helps people get comfortable joining a local gym on their own. It's a complete package. So when you put it all together, you get a really clear evidence-based blueprint. First, you've got to use trackers to see what's actually happening, not just what people say. Second, focus on that moderate to vigorous activity like brisk walking, aiming for more than 150 minutes a week. Third, be proactive about fall prevention. Check the home for hazards, do specific balance training. And finally, and this is so important, screen for that fear of falling and give people the coaching and support they need to overcome it. So, there you have it. The science is solid, the how is understood, and the path forward is clear. Physical activity isn't some magic cure, but it is an incredibly powerful, protective medicine that is within our grasp. The evidence is no longer in question. The only real question left is the one for each of us. Are you ready to choose movement over fear?